Good morning, students. Have a great day. I hope you all have understood the Dick Whittington and his cat part 1 very well. So, today we are going to learn part 2 of this lesson. So, before we start with part 2, let us recall what we have learned in part 1. Dick Whittington was a poor boy who lived in a small village in the south of England. Many villagers used to treat him unkindly because his both parents had died and had no proper home to live. Having heard someone says that the streets of London were paved with gold, he decided to go there to become rich and hope that after that he would be treated well by others. All his hopes were crushed. Why? Because there were no gold paved streets in London. All he could see were dirty streets and lots of unfriendly people. With no food to eat and place to sleep, he collapsed in front of the house of Mr. Fitzwarren. And who was Mr. Fitzwarren? A rich merchant. Now, Mr. Fitzwarren favored Dick. By how? By ordering the cook to take him into the kitchen, feed him, and then find some work for him. But Dick had to face two difficulties in Mr. Fitzwarren's house. And what are the two difficulties? First, the attic where he slept was overrun by cat and mice, preventing him from sleep. And the second was the cook was bad-tempered and shouted and screamed at Dick, scolding him and hitting him with a wooden spoon even when he was working as hard as he could. So, one night he was fed up of all this and he left along with his cat and saving of few pennies. He left Mr. Fitzwarren home to seek his fortune elsewhere. On his way out of London, Dick sat down on a stone to rest. It was the 1st of November, All Saints' Day, and the church bells were ringing. Dick felt that the bells were ringing out a message to him, and that message to go back to Mr. Fitzwarren's house, as he was worthy of becoming the Lord Mayor of London. So Dick and his cat went back to Mr. Fitzwarren's house. So till here is a part 1 which we have learned on Saturday. So today we are going to learn part 2. Let us see what happened further with Dick. Now, Mr. Fitzwarren used to send ships far across the sea to trade with other countries. So, Mr. Fitzwarren, he used to send the ships far across the sea to trade. Now, what do you mean by trade? The action of buying and selling of goods with other countries. He would load a ship with goods for a captain and ship's crew to sell in faraway places, and then they would bring back goods that would be sold at home. Mr. Fitzwarren would load. What do you mean by load? Put things into something. So he used to put things on ship with goods for a captain and ship's crew. Now crew means what? A group of people who work on and operate a ship for them to sell in faraway places. That means they sell that goods in far away out of London, and then they would bring back the goods which would be sold at home. That means the things which are needed in London were bring back to home and sell in London. So they used to do the trading, means buying and selling of goods. One day he called his household together. "I'm sending a ship to the African coast to trade," he said. So Mr. Fitzwarren, he called his household together and he said that "I'm sending a ship to the African coast to trade." And he asked his household that if they want to send something of theirs on it. Would any of you like to send something of yours on it? You can then share in the profits if the voyage is successful. Then what he said? He promised that a share in profits if the voyage was successful. Now what do you mean by voyage? A long journey which involves travel by sea. So everyone produced something except for Dick. Why? Who had nothing to offer. Everyone has sent something. Everyone has produced something. But Dick don't have anything to offer. "Have you nothing of your own, Dick?" asked Mr. Fitzwarren kindly. So Mr. Fitzwarren, he asked kindly to Dick that have you nothing of your own to send? Then he said, only my cat. Then he replied that I don't have anything to send on ship. I have only my cat. Now let's see further. Then let your cat go on the ship, said Mr. Fitzwarren. So Mr. Fitzwarren said, then okay, you have only your cat. So let your cat go on the ship. His daughter Alice said, Dick loves his cat. So his daughter, that means Mr. Fitzwarren daughter Alice, she said that Dick loves his cat a lot. Let me put something in for him. So Alice said that let me send something on the ship for him as he don't have anything to send. So, but her father said, that means who said? Mr. Fitzwarren. He said, no, it must be his, not something belong to someone else. So, Mr. Fitzwarren said to Alice that, no, you can't send anything which belongs to you. It must be of Dick only. So, Dick fetched his cat and said goodbye to it sadly. So, at last, Dick has to send his cat on the ship. So he took his cap and said goodbye to it sadly. The captain of the ship was delighted, for the cat was an excellent mouser, and so he had no trouble with rats and mice on his voyage. The captain of the ship, what do you mean by captain? Captain means the person in command of a ship. So he was delighted. Yes, delighted means what? Very happy. He was very happy for the cat. Why? Because cat was an excellent mouser. Now what do you mean by mouser? Mouser means an animal that catches mouse. And so he had no trouble with rats and mice in his long journey by sea. So he was very happy with the cat on his ship. Then, after some months, the ship arrived at a place on the African coast, Barbary, where people called the Moors lived. That means after some months, the ship reached at the place on the African coast, Barbary, where Moors lived. Moors means what? Moors were the Muslim inhabitants during the Middle Ages. Okay, so the captain sent a message. Now, the captain sent a message to the king to say he had fine goods for sale and he was invited to the palace to show them. So the captain sent a message to the king that he had brought some goods to sell. So the king invited the captain with goods to the palace to see it. Then, while he was talking to the king and queen, some dishes of food were brought in, but almost immediately rats and rice ran up and before the captain's eyes ate all the food. So when the captain was talking to the king and queen, some dishes of food were brought, and suddenly rats and mice came up in front of the captain and ate all the food. The captain was astonished and asked it. This was what normally happened. So the captain was astonished. Astonished means what? Surprise to see. And he asked to the king and queen, is this happens every day in the palace? Then, alas, yes, came the reply. The country is suffering from a plague of rats and mice and we cannot get rid of him. So they replied, yes, it happens every time because our country is suffering from a plague of rats and mice. Now what do you mean by plague? Plague means a thing that causes a great trouble. So he said that our country is facing a great trouble of rats and mice and we cannot take action so as to be free of this rats and mice. Then, I think I may have the answer on my ship, said the captain, and he sent a message asking for Dick's cat to be brought to the palace. So what the captain said, that I may help you to get rid of this rats and mice. I may have the answer on my ship. So he sent a message asking the Dick's cat to be brought into the palace. More food was laid out and the rats and mice appeared as before. So the Dick's cat was brought into the palace. So more food was brought into the palace. So as soon as the food was brought, rats and mice appeared as before, and the cat immediately pounced, killing at least a dozen before they scattered. So the Dick's cat, it immediately pounced on the rats and mice and killing at least a dozen of rats and mice before they spread. Scatter means what? Before they go here and there. everyone was delighted, and the queen asked, what do you call this animal? So everyone was happy, everyone was delighted over there, seeing, very happy, seeing that the rats and mice are died. So they were happy, and the queen asked to the captain, what do you call this animal? That means, what is the name of this animal? Means, what is the name of this cat? Puss is the name, she answers to, said the captain. And when the queen called Puss Puss, the cat went over to her and purred. That means puss. Puss means what we say, no, pussycat, pussycat. So the cat also, she also answered, and the captain said her name is Puss. So queen called Puss Puss, then the cat went over to her. That means the cat went near to queen, and she purred. Purred means which what is the sound the cat makes? Meow, meow. So the sound means purred, means made a low continuous sound. So the queen was a little alarmed at first. Alarm means what? Means she felt frightened, because she was and she was so fiercely, she was trying to catch the rats and mice. So first she was little alarmed, she felt frightened, as she had seen how fiercely the cat had. That means how violently, how aggressively she was attacking the rats and mice. So, but the captain told her not to be anxious. Puss is very friendly with people. So the captain said that don't worry. This cat is very friendly with people, he said, and would soon rid your kingdom of rats and mice. So the captain said, soon your kingdom will be get rid of from rats and mice. I would give great wealth to own this cat, said the queen. Queen said that I will give good amount of money for this cat only. So the captain began bargaining, and it was agreed that the king would buy the whole cargo from Mr. Fitzwarren's ship to pay a fine price for it. And for the cat alone, the king paid 10 times the sum again. So the captain began to bargain. Now, what do you mean by bargaining? Negotiate a deal. Now, see, if we go to market, we reduce the price, right? So here the captain also, they were making a deal of the things and of a cat. So it was agreed, and the king said that I will buy the whole cargo, means whatever you have brought on the ship, I'll buy everything, and I'll pay a fine price to it. And what he said, for the cat alone, the king paid 10 times the sum again. That means only for the cat. Means suppose if the cargo, if the things in the ship, the goods which are there in the ship, if that amount is 1,000, yes, if the amount for all the things is 1,000, so 10 times sum again, means 10 times, means 1,000 multiplied by 10, that means it will become 10,000. So 10,000 I'll give only for the cat. That means 10 times more I will pay only for the cat alone. When the ship came back to the port of London, the captain showed Mr. Fitzwarren the gold and jewels he had brought from Barbary, and told him the story of the cat the merchant sent for Dick. So when the ship came back again from the African coast to London, so he showed all the gold and jewels. The captain showed all the gold and jewels to Mr. Fitzwarren, which he was brought from the Barbary, and he also told the story which was what happened on the African coast, what happened in the palace, everything he told. And then from now on, Dick, he said, we should all call you Mr. Whittington, for you are a rich man. So the Mr. Fitzwarren, he said that from now onwards we will not call you as Dick, we will call you as Mr. Whittington, because you are a rich man now. So Mr. Fitzwarren then paid him all the money the captain had received for the cat. So Mr. Fitzwarren, he paid all the money which the captain had brought only for the cat. Why only to Mr. Whittington? Why only for Dick? Because the cat was belonging to Dick himself. So the amount which king and queen was paid for the cat will go to Whittington, will go to Dick. So now Dick has become rich. So he said that, Mr. Fitzwarren said, now onwards we will call you as Mr. Whittington. From this time on, Dick worked with Mr. Fitzwarren and became a successful merchant himself. So from that time onwards, Dick worked with Mr. Fitzwarren and he too became a successful merchant himself by working with Mr. Fitzwarren. Then let's see what happened further. He married Mr. Fitzwarren's daughter Alice and 3 times he was elected Lord Mayor of London. So later on now he too become rich. So Mr. Whittington, he married to Mr. Fitzwarren's daughter Alice and 3 times, that means 3 times he was elected as Lord Mayor of London, and he was also in time knighted by the king and became Sir Richard Whittington. Knighted means what? Given a highly honored title. So he was given a title, also given a title as Sir Richard Whittington. And he was not only famous but he was popular too. He was not only famous but he was popular too in London, for he always helped the poor with his money. He always ready to help the poor people with his money. And sometimes when he was old, he would tell his grandchildren the story of his cat and how the bells of London had called him back when he was only a poor boy. That means he would tell his grandchildren the story of his cat and how the bells of London had called him back when he was a poor boy. So the moment, that means the message to go back to Mr. Fitzwarren house as he was worthy of becoming the Lord Mayor of London, that is turn again Whittington, though worthy citizen, Lord Mayor of London. So this message have changed his fortune for good and for ever. So here the story ends. So this story actually gives us a strong message that we may face hardships in life, but if we are strong enough to deal with the difficulties and if we work hard, our fortune, that means our luck, will change, and that change is for good. We should be persistent and determined and never lose hope. Okay, so I hope you all have understood this story very well and also the message which we get from this story. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Thank you. Bye bye.